It's now 8 o'clock sharp here in Belgium. And before starting with our first speaker, I will give a small introduction of who we are as Ethiopian Art Conservation Program, why we are organizing these community talks, and especially who are the people behind us and all the researchers and initiators of wonderful projects in Ethiopia who've been working and for many, many years on the conservation of Ethiopian heritage. So I'm Naomi Meulemans, and I am the founder of Ethiopian Art Conservation Program. And over the last 3 years, actually, we started in 2021 officially. We've been working very closely together with the University of Bahidar University and University of Antwerp. This is because we are trying to work together on a project, which in short is called the DESER BDU project, to initiate the first art conservation program in Ethiopia. Besides that, of course, we try to do as Ethiopian Art Conservation Program many other things as well to generate awareness and support to the community in Ethiopia, but also to help guiding the international community towards the art sector, cultural sector, tourism sector, and most of all, the heritage sector. We've been doing this for a while now, but in 2024, we will continue to invest in education and capacity building of art conservations in Ethiopia. And we try to do that by supporting both financially as also just in finding the right platforms and including already existing institutions and individuals working in the field of cultural heritage. That last one is actually the most important thing for us because we are a Belgian Ethiopian organization and we do not wish to create new initiatives, but we try to provide support for the people already doing it and actually connecting them much more with both the government and local communities. We focus on a few fields in the large, very big sector of cultural management. We work on heritage, education, research, knowledge, and HR development, and of course, social engagement. In the last 3 years, we've been focusing a lot on education and research. And since 2024 has started, we also try to invest a lot in capacity building through actually lobbying for job opportunities, social engagements, and through events, but also working with the different local governments in and around Ethiopia that can make this actually much more possible. Let me check. Yes. So all of that, if you look at all those niches that we are working at, we bring them together into one platform in Ethiopia, and we want to bring the government, the community, and the professional experts together. But our main goal is always to preserve the Ethiopian heritage, because at Ethiopian Art Conservation Program, we believe that the history and the culture of Ethiopia is not only important for the local people, but obviously also for our shared knowledge about history of the world. We have a few upcoming events in 2024, such as we're trying to implement a research laboratory at Bahidar University in 2024, or at least start mapping that. We are looking for different stakeholders, but we've been also working with a lot of companies in and outside of Ethiopia to see if we can get a very full equipped professional research laboratory. On the side, we also work with the Ethiopian Embassy in Brussels, which will hold a beautiful exhibition on the history and art of Ethiopia. Of course, we have our community talks that has started today, and we will also have our own exhibition on Ethiopian art in Leuven in Belgium. And a very beautiful highlight of this year will be the workshops we're trying to implement on art conservation in person in Addis Ababa. Depending on the local situation in Ethiopia, we will either work in Addis Ababa, Bahidar, or another place in Ethiopia. Also, these workshops will be listed online at the same website where you have found our links. In the end, you can also always find a way to contact us and get involved in this. We did have some beautiful previous events. We have an agreement with the Ethiopian Authority of Research and Conservation of Cultural Heritage. This is a 2-year agreement where we help to support each other. This goes way further than just an agreement. This means that Ethiopian Art Conservation Program is looking into helping conserving the national collections of Ethiopia. On the site, we also try to provide them with conservation materials and experts. We also listen to what they need, and they are helping to advise us in having like a good deontology and an ethical code on how to approach Ethiopian art conservations. On the other side, we have our program that I listed before, the development of an art conservation education and research program at Barhidar University. This is in parallel agreement with University of Antwerp, and the leading promoters from the Belgian side are Professor Tim de Kok, Professor Nathalie Ortega-Saas, and with them we work together with few of our prominent speakers of today. Professor Abebe Beru will talk about it later as well in his talk, but we also have a few of our PhD students who will address some of the topics that we are trying to implement at the university. On the side of that, besides that, we try to focus on financial aid. As we know, this is one of the biggest challenges in cultural heritage management in Ethiopia. So we try to create a fund that can go in for the future for sustainable projects. We've been having a big fundraiser. We had a big fundraiser in 2021, and last year we did have a summer project that also generated some additional funds. We are also working with local partners in Belgium that believe in our cause, but also with companies, Belgian companies that are actively working in Ethiopia and that also believe in the support of their local communities. Another great event that we had last year was a training by Bele Haile Selassie, our creative director who was invited at the University of Antwerp for a training course on the methodology and approaches in art conservation in Ethiopia. We did hold a conference at the AARCH in Addis Ababa about Ethiopian art conservation in 2022. And this was actually the first initiated event in Ethiopia with the local community where all professionals were invited, both the ministries, the government, as also individuals working in art conservation in Ethiopia. Then we had our beautiful exhibition last year as well here in Belgium, where we invited about 6 Ethiopian contemporary artists who showed and displayed their artwork. And we also managed to actually get additional funds for them so that we can work with them again this year. And some of our artists were also selected for scholarships. What we do is what we believe. We try to fill the gap between the many, many different sectors in Ethiopia. We also know that there is a commercial side of working in cultural management, and we try to bridge that with the people who are doing this at a non-profit basis. On the side here, you see also a picture of Abel Asefa, who was a former project coordinator at the AARCH, and decided to invest his time and his work actually at the Yimtum Bezina Museum in Addis Ababa. This is a great example of where the private sector is really, really requested to help and step in to save cultural heritage, as this was a former 19th century house that was saved by Abel, both by Abel and the owners, the previous owners of this house, in order to save destruction. And this is a tendency that is happening a lot in Addis Ababa, but also overall in Ethiopia, where cultural heritage unfortunately has to step aside for big development plans that also try to, of course, uplift the community, because this house is right in the middle of a community park, the Unity Park, and is actually a really prestigious project. So it's about finding the balance, helping each other, and as you can see, there are many, many gaps to fill, and that's where EACP tries to be. But today we are so lucky actually that we get the opportunity to listen for 2 days to about 12 experts that all have a great experience. Not all, but most of them are Ethiopian. We also invited international art conservators that have a very tight link with Ethiopia, or at least are working in the research and the sector of Ethiopian art and history. I believe after this talk, many people will be able to connect with each other. And I don't think it's mentioned in this presentation yet, but we will collect all abstracts and make them available on our website. And you may also reach out to our experts as well. So let's start this conference. We will start with our first presenter, which is Dr. Abebe Dires Dimberu. He will discuss about his work and his commitment for decades on the implementation of museum studies at Bahir Dar University, but also he will elaborate on the need for professional and well-equipped museums, and especially in this case, a university museum. You may always stay in touch with us through the channels listed here, but feel free first to listen to all of our speakers. So, Dr. Abebe, I will give you the platform.
Okay.
And once you are ready, you may comment. You have about 15 minutes extra time, so take it easy and questions can be answered after your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. First, let me share my...
Yes.
Is that okay now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Make it in presentation mode, I think.
Sorry, you know?
ዋንጫ መሰሏን ነገር ተጫናት በቀኝ በኩል በቀኝ ዲስፕላይ እንዲሆን ፉል እንትኑ ብያ
Okay.
I think it's okay if you share it again in the way you did, because we know there is a technical problem when he shares his screen in full. So you can keep it small if that's better.
How about now?
You didn't share.
Sure.
Yes, you have to share it again. It was good before. You have to do it the same thing again.
Okay.
Perfect. You can leave it like this. That's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Naomi and ACP program for this invitation all the time. I want also to extend my thanks to Balai Selassie. Is working day and night to connect our university with ACP and universities in Belgium and other areas. And I thank also the University of Antwerp for the connection and help. So it is my second time to present the issue of Barbara University museum project. Back in 2022, I was also invited to present with the host of ICP program in Addis Ababa, and I thank for that. So I want you to share some issues related to the museum project at Barda University, its inception and the progress. Okay, thank you. In the background section, is it okay, Naomi?
Yes, it's perfect.
Yeah, okay. In the background section, I want to talk about the diverse and the remarkable heritages of Ethiopia recorded under the World Heritage and other areas of anyways, Ethiopia is rich in the natural and cultural heritages with 2 natural attractions and 9 cultural properties inscribed in the World Heritage List. And surprisingly, Ethiopia is first in Africa with 11 tangible heritages recorded in the World Heritage List. And it is followed by South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, and other African countries. And in addition to these movable heritages, we have also rich movable artifacts, movable artifacts dominantly owned by the Church of Ethiopian Orthodox Church. When we look at the heritages recorded under the UNESCO list, we have the oldest recorded heritages that were described in 1978 and 1979. As many of you may be clear of this, Rock Churches of Lalibela was recorded in 1979, and the natural heritage, that is Seven Mountain National Park, was also the 1978 record of the UNESCO. Hasil Gibi, which is found in Gondar Palace Complex, a huge and marvelous palace complex consisting of many palaces at different ages, also recorded in 1979 after a year. 1980 was the year where Ethiopia was able to record 4 marvelous World Heritage sites. The first one is Aksum. And as far as Ethiopia's history is, Aksum is very known in the history of Ethiopia. So there is no need to mention about it. We have also the Tia carved stone recorded in the same year. The lower valley of Awash and Omo. These 2 archaeological sites were also recorded as World Heritage List in 1980. This is almost very close to half a century, 44 years ago. We have recent recorded World Heritage sites. One is a fortified town of Harar, and the other is the Konso cultural landscape. Actually, Konso in 2011 and Harar in 2006 we have very recent registrations, the Gedio Cultural Landscape and the Bali National Park were recorded as World Heritages in 2023. Needless to mention all, we have also 5 UNESCO intangible cultural heritages. So we have a total of 16 World Heritages recorded in the UNESCO list. We have also hundreds, thousands of movable heritages, which are very susceptible for illicit trafficking and which really requires the intervention of museums, actually. Yeah. Hundreds, thousands of movable heritages. As I mentioned earlier, these heritages are dominantly owned by the church and the church community, churches, monasteries. We have thousands of churches and monasteries in Ethiopia. So these are the sources of Ethiopian history and Ethiopian culture identity in general. But quite contrary to the abundant cultural and natural heritages of the country, there are few museums in the country. This is unfortunate that we have only very limited finger count museums in the country. As many of you know, the first museum in the country came in the middle of the 20th century, 1944. That was the National Museum of Ethiopia. And it was followed by, after 2 decades, the IS, Institute of Ethiopian Studies, and the National History Museum at Addis Ababa University. So these are the museums that we mention every time we talk about Ethiopian Museum, and they are credited for just initiating a museum as industry, a museum as public enterprise in the country. But fortunately, recently there are attempts to create museums, both public and church museums, here and there in many countries, in many areas of the country. We see churches and public organizations to establish museums. But all of them are at elementary stage. They are at infancy stage. Anyways, they require support and patronage. Always, as far as I'm talking about university museums, I want to bring this into attention to my audiences. This is my second time I make this presentation. There are Global University Museum Association. There is, which was founded back in 2000 in Barcelona. The first conference was held in Barcelona. We have 61 countries as member and nearly 4,000 university museums. 4,000 university museums are part of this association, professional association. So I want to bring your attention that Africa had only 27 university museums as member of this huge association. And these 27 universities are owned by only few countries, South Africa taking 15 university museums, Egypt 3, Nigeria 2. Other 7 countries, each of them having 1, 7, and totally 27 university museums are member of this huge international community and international scholarly group. So unfortunately, Ethiopia is not represented here. So I always worry about this issue, and it was also a worry of my, the worry of my university leaders. So taking this as issue, Bahar Dar University as one of the first public universities in Amhara region, and as one of the first generation universities in Ethiopia, is located in Amara region, where we have remarkable cultural heritages. So Bahar Dar University has taken the initiative to work on heritages and heritage conservation just by starting some programs for training. And the first attempt to initiate University Museum came in 2040-50, and I remember at least 2 consultative workshops were conducted for the museum community, for the university community to raise the issue. After that, in 2060-70, a new curriculum in heritage and museum studies was approved by the University Senate, and in the same year, July, we have taken 9 students in summer program from Amara Region Bureau of Culture and Tourism, just to train them in heritage and museum management, because these professionals at Bahar Dar are responsible for guiding and leading other heritage and museum personnel across the region. So these 9 people were trained in MA and heritage studies at Bahar Dar University. And again, the next year, in September, we have also 7 recruits from the same institution for regular program, and they were successfully trained and go back to work after training. Unfortunately, this batch of MA training was not able to continue as planned. The last batch came in 2018 with 14 students, and after that, it was interrupted for some time. And last year, we had also 5 students for the same program, and these students are under study. For the establishment of Bahar Dar University Museum, we call it Natural History Museum. The momentum was again reinforced by Dr. Freo, the incumbent president, back in October 2018, where he established 7 committees from different disciplines. And I was assigned as a leader of that committee. Different disciplines were invited: biology and life science, geology and earth science, history and heritage management, folklore, cultural studies, and STEM center is science, technology, engineering and mathematics center. They were represented in the committee. We had also some people helping us from outside. And let me show you the progress. The committee was interested to prepare a proposal for the establishment of a museum at Bahar Dar University to be endorsed by the Senate. So this committee, headed by myself, managed to prepare the proposal in a year time, and finally we were able to get the management for some feedbacks and comments. One of the people that I want to thank is Dr. Hirut Kasau, who was Minister of Culture and Tourism that time, who had given us a very important comment and feedback and encouragement as well. And our proposal of this Natural History Museum was endorsed by Bahar Dar University Senate in January 2022. And again, it was considered as one of the development plans. The Ethiopian Ministry of Planning and Development also endorsed it as Bahar Dar University Development Project as of 2022. So it is under consideration. Just to say a few words about the function of the University Museum. In the process of just establishing the document, we managed to bring these things into consideration. What would be the function of the university museum? So we had these three important things to be considered as the function of a university museum: supporting teaching and learning, supporting community outreach, and preservation and promotion of regional and national heritages. These three functions should be considered as a function of a university museum. And we always want feedback and comment. We will improve it. It's not yet final. We had also a vision of becoming a very vibrant place of ideas with state-of-the-art facilities and the like. Missions, as other museums do, we had just selected 4 missions: the mission of collection, the mission of research, education, and conservation. So we will do this as mission of Bahar Dar University. We have also specific objectives mentioned here, just to save time. Let me focus on the ongoing activities, plans, and strategies. The ongoing activities, I want to bring your attention, all participants and our friends abroad and here in Ethiopia. In November 2022, museum director was assigned. Myself was assigned as museum director. 2 other admin staffs were also included. 3 years strategic plan and museum documents like collection guidelines, disposal, and loan guidelines are prepared and reviewed twice, and we need extra review just by external reviewers. So we invite our colleagues and the participants of this community talk to give us some feedbacks with regard to the collection guideline, disposal, and loan guidelines. Other procurement of facilities is underway. Sorry. What are the future plans? So the future plan is to resume the master's program in heritage and museum studies, and the curriculum or the syllabus that we are using now need to be revised. There is a need, there is a gap that we identified, especially some courses that are related to conservation are missing. So in collaboration with Yeno and Shimandas, we plan to revise curriculum and resume master program in heritage and museum management. To start a new bachelor degree program in history and conservation, restoration. This is a very objective of the project that Yeno and Shimandas are in Belgium. So when they get back, the first thing is we will open bachelor degree program in heritage conservation and restoration, and I hope our stakeholder, the University of Antwerp, will continue, and ECP will also help us in progressing to that end. Collaboration with national and international communities for sustainability issues and standardization. Bahar Dar University Museum is at inception stage, so we need collaborations, just staff exchange and some works related to standardization of museum documents and in surveying, in the research, heritage of Ethiopia, and other programs are open for collaboration, and we are always searching for that. And the last one is MA in art history. After our visit in Belgium last year in June, we came to know that art history is a must to have at Bahar Dar University, because we don't have such professionals in Ethiopia. So there is a gap that we identify in artistry. So MA in artistry is another curriculum and syllabus to be developed in the future, which requires also collaboration among Ethiopian national and international communities. And this is all that I can share you the status of Bahar Dar University Museum project. And I thank all the participants and Naomi once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abebe. I will quickly take this over for now before we start some question round. If you could close the screen, that would be good.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So thank you. That was really interesting. First of all, if anyone has a question, they can put it in the chat box or raise your hand with the tool in Zoom. And we have some time now for about 15 minutes for some questions. Dr. Abebe, thank you very much. I'm very impressed with the selection that you made for this presentation. I was wondering, in the first way, as a first question, how do you see that this university museum has a Ethiopian identity, or how or where does it differ from other universities in the world? Is there a more, like, do you have a different approach that is unique, or how do you see it for the future? For how can it be a symbol for university museums for other countries as well?
Okay. Yeah. So actually, we want to establish our university museum as just by its own color, but yet it should follow international standards and scientific procedures. Otherwise, many of the things that we do will be based on our regional needs and national needs in particular. Otherwise, the issue of it is a general museum that we include natural heritages and cultural heritages alike. So we will include all themes of heritages that we have. In other areas, in other countries, in developed countries, we may have very specialized museums, just specializing on some selected themes. So this is the area that university museum is different. But still, with theory-grounded recommendations and feedbacks, we can have room for change, changing, improving, and the like. So this is that I have. I don't know if I get your questions exactly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And I also saw that, you already mentioned some of the challenges where you would like to have some assistance and help for art conservation and art, collection management, I suppose. Do you have previous experience with, for example, international programs at Bahar Dar University where scholars can come or PhD students can come for research, so they can work with you on this kind of plan? Or are there other ways that you like to work together with the professional sector of museum development?
Sorry. Yes, we have experiences from Bahar Dar University as programs. For example, in agriculture, technology, fashion, design, in these areas, we have experts coming from all over the world, sharing their experience together with Ethiopian professionals and practical practitioners as industry engagement. So we can connect this type of collaborations not only with Bahar Dar University Museum, but also Amara Region Culture and Tourism Bureau is there in charge of conserving, studying, and taking care of all the heritages that we have in Amhara region. So there are experiences in the area of research, in the area of experience sharing, and in the area of standardizations and the like.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you. I will have another round. If anyone has a question, you have 5 more minutes to ask it. Okay. So I think then, thank you very much, Dr. Abebe. We will also put your presentation online with your contact information. I wish you a lot of luck with the further progress of this beautiful mission. And yes, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I think, Ayanu, I think we can start preparing for your presentation. Ayanu is a PhD candidate at the University of Antwerp. It's a co-PhD, yeah, he's following the program with University of Antwerp and Bahar Dar University. But maybe I think it's easier if I let Ayanu introduce himself and his research that he's been developing. So you can take the platform, and you have also about 10 minutes extra time. So don't feel bad about talking a bit longer.
Hello, everyone. I think you're hearing me.
Yes, we are.
It's glad to share something about the Ethiopian heritage to you, particularly the immovable heritage, or what we can call it the built heritage. In Ethiopia, this is actually a premature stage. You have already said something about me, Naomi. You already introduced me to the people. I am a PhD student at the University of Antwerp, and I am a lecturer in the history of, in Bahar Dar University in the Department of History, and I'm doing my PhD here. And I want to say something about built heritage conservation in Ethiopia, particularly in Lake Tana area. I am not going to describe in paragraph, just I want to show some pictures, and you can even see how the problem is serious in relation to conservation in Ethiopian Eritrea. And it's already known and that is generally acknowledged that Ethiopia is a country situated in the eastern part of Africa, which is very rich in architectural and painting, and that is showing the history of art of the state in the continent. And there are much more buildings, and some of them are monasteries, some of them are palaces, and even some of them are public dwellings. And these are the heritage which attract tourists from any part of the world. But despite this all-rounded value of heritage, they are not well preserved and well managed for the sustainability, maybe for the benefit of the future generation in Ethiopia, particularly in my focus area, which is the geographical limit that I am going to focus on for my PhD thesis. So let me give you an overview about some of the heritage that I already see during my physical observation to coin my title for my PhD. And for example, that Dankas is one of the palaces found in Ethiopia, which is found in the northwestern part of the country, located some 28 kilometers away from a very small city in Gondar district. It is situated in the northeastern part of Lake Tana. So the lake was built in the early 60s, which is very nearer to the shore of Lake Tana. So the palace was built in the 17th century for political as well as religious purpose, but it is not well preserved. It is threatened by different factors like that of the climate change and the expansion of maybe agricultural land, and even the plantation of different trees by the community, as well as naturally there are a number of micro and macro trees planted in and around the palace. That is a very serious threat towards the sustainability of this palace in Mahara regional estate. So you can see how this building is threatening by different factors, but the concerned organization, particularly the Culture and Tourism Office in the regional level, as well as the state, the federal level, are not that much concerned maybe, or they give a very little attention to the sustainability of such great built heritage in Ethiopia that may useful for the generation to come, maybe to have a lesson about their ancestor and the deed that have been accomplished by their parents and grandparents. You can see how it is deteriorating from time to time, the result of the presence of different mosses and a kind of patina in the wall, and cattle and even sheep and goats are spending much time in and around this palace, and it is just discoloring from that time to time, and it doesn't have any color, cover from the above. So discoloration that you have seen from the wall is also the result of the ultraviolet radiation, or is maybe the climate, the temperature. And this is the plantation of tree, maybe the roots of the trees and becoming a threatening factor for the sustainability of such a heritage. Still the Dankas Palace, which is very near to the city of Gondar. It is still, there is the microorganism, the macro trees are there. It's not cleared by at least the local community, and even nobody is assigned to protect such built heritage in that particular area. And maybe if you want to visit this area, you can call a militia from somewhere and take this militia to that particular area without any professional knowledge, how to guide, how to explain the history of this palace. So this indicated that a very little attention is given by the cultural office in Kabale and Warada, zonal and even regional level to the preservation, at least for the cleaning of such patina, such microorganism from the wall for the futurity and the sustainability of such a palace, which is the built heritage. You can see also how the expansion of agricultural land is threatening such a building with a built heritage, because people are expanding their lands as a result of the population pressure, as a result of the increment of population number in the local area. People are no worries about, no bothering about the sustainability of such a building, a built heritage, because they don't know about the significance, the value of this built heritage. They only think about the expansion of their maybe cultural land, agricultural land. So this is due to lack of awareness, and this is maybe due to lack of professional support from the cultural office to the local community, how to preserve and how to maybe protect their heritage in their local area. And the second maybe palace that I have seen in a very serious problem is that Guzara Palace, which was built in the 16th century, maybe the early 16th century, and situated also very near to the shore of Lake Tana, that gave a upper hand to Imperial to control everything from all directions, because it was built from the political advantage. Built by Sir Dingle in the end of the 16th century, and it was very close to the town of Infrance, which is a very small city again, to the way from Bahadar to Gondar, and similar with the castle of Fasil in the Gondar city, in all the style of its structure, but it is still under threats, under a state of risk. Because there is an attempt to actually preserve and protect from damage, particularly the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, and which were ordered by one of the director of the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, maybe Ababa Wayalo, order some maybe a little expertise to conserve the Guzara Palace, but it is poor restoration. So there is a lacuna that I am seeing. You may see on the wall how the lacuna, the hole on the wall of the building, but this building was built by the local experts, maybe the local conservator, and they used a mud, surprisingly, which is not original material, and even which is not very similar to the original material in which the palace was built at the first stage. So some of the directors in Culture and Tourism Office order those conservators to use a mud to conserve Guzara Palace, and then when the summers come, a huge rain will happen, and that mud will go off again, and the lacuna that you are seeing on the wall of the palace is happening still. It is open because there is no conducive political environment to refill it again by maybe the similar material for the sustainability of this palace. This is also another side that I observed. Maybe this is the very specific geographical limit that I am going to focus with in consultation with my local and here and the advisor. Professor Tim and Professor Gaddaf will advise me to focus on maybe the very specific title that I have to focus or deal with, and it is the monastery built by one of the emperors in Ethiopia, in the wife of Bakafa in 1740s, situated in the western shore of the Iceland, which is the largest island in the lake now. And it is also under serious threat. There was an attempt to conserve it actually, but that is really a heritage crime which was committed by even Imperial Haile Selassie himself. The crime against the sustainability of the heritage in Ethiopia, because His Majesty Imperial Haile Selassie ordered the people to peel the original roof of the church or the monastery and replace it by iron, which is not original, and that is really considered as the heritage crime committed by those people, maybe due to a lack of awareness about the originality of the material for the restoration, maybe for the protection of our heritage. So there are elements showing the continuation of Gondorian architectural style in relation to building in this monastery, and there are different even buildings in and around the monastery itself. This is the church that I have seen, but the roof was not original. It was a grass that is totally removed by maybe the priestess or the local community, and later replaced by the iron that you are seeing from the roof. It is due to maybe a lack of awareness, and it is due to by maybe the order of His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie in 1956. So you can see even the Gondorian structure, the Gondorian style of building, but this building is not well preserved. You can see the discoloration of the building. You can see the hole or the patina-like maybe bacteria and some mosses are there, and even some fungi will be there that caused for the deterioration of the building maybe. And you can see also the discoloration of the window as a result of the climatic effect, as a result of maybe the presence of some bio microbial. This maybe provided that it will be proved by experiment, which is laboratory experiment. I will be supported by my supervisors. So we will prove whether there is a presence of microbial on the window and the whole hall in the whole building of Nerga Selassie. This is also another building that you are seeing, and different grasses and mosses are grown on the top and the wall of the building. And even the people living in that monastery is not even clearing continuously the top and even the wall of the building. This is maybe due to lack of awareness how the grasses and how the mosses and even the patina-like microbials are threatening the sustainability of our built heritage. You can see also this building, that is the staircase, how it is discolored, how the patina and some microbial and the fungi is available. And this is the real problem caused for biodeterioration of the buildings in the Lake Tana area. So this is also the problem I see never seen as a threat by the concerned individual, the concerned organization, and never cleaning by the priestess and the local community for the existence and the protection of heritage, because this is not the only the heritage that we have. People maybe living in the monastery is just seeing the mural painting inside the church and the roof, the beauty. Simply, they don't know about the originality of the material that they are using for a restoration purpose. Simply, if they get any support from any individual without a knowledge of protection, without a knowledge of conservation and restoration, they will accept, and that shiny material can be used in the church. And this is out of the principle of conservation and restoration. This is due to lack of continuous support that should be rendered by the local government, especially in relation to culture and tourism. This is also another building, which is a ruins building found in the monastery of Narga Selassie, never cleaned by anybody. You can see grass and mosses and the bacteria maybe, and a patina maybe, provided that it should be proved by the experiment in laboratory. This is also another building that it has its own history in relation to politics, in relation to religion, in the religious history. The political history of Ethiopia also can be stated by such a building if we preserve it for a long period of time. You can see the inside part of the church, the roof, and you can see some different color, which is a crack, and they want to maintain it by lime that they are producing them, the lime there. This is also the cracks. The wall of the inside part of the monastery is not like it is actually. The lime is a new one, but still it is cracking, but it is with no knowledge of conservation. That is the traditional way of conservation they are using to sustain the church itself. The problem that I have seen in the church is also, whenever they are getting or happening a crack within the church, they are using a cement, which is very dangerous. You can see how they are using cement. The church is originally built by lime mortar. So this cement is totally bad to use in that monastery to repair, because it will also widen the cloth, the crack. So it should be recommended by the expert, the professional, to repair and maintain it, and even for the sustainability of the church, because it is out of the principle, it is out of the procedure of restoration, which is totally not similar with the material which originally the church or the monastery was built. You can see the cement they are using. I try to communicate with them while I visited the site. They are using it for maybe protecting the crack, maybe filling the crack by cement, but it's not expected to fill it as a professional. This is the discoloration of that, maybe the polars. This is the production of lime they're using inside to fill the cracks. How they're producing lime in the monastery of Narga Selassie. Maybe the geographical limit or the scope of my study will be there. provided that the study needs a laboratory test about the materiality, about even the age of the material used for constructing that monastery in Lake Tana. Another problem I see that there is also a complete replacement of the church, completely replacing the church. They are using actually similar like original material, but totally remove the original one and replaced by another church in Lake Tana Monastery, which is totally forbidden in the principle of conservation and restoration. And this is one of the monastery which is totally removed by the order and the recommendation of culture and tourism office in regional level, I see. And this is the method used by the local community and the experts. Maybe they are not that much expert actually, but they do have some knowledge of restoration, but using a method which is a poor restoration applied in Guzara Palace. Later, it happens because the mud is go off as a result of the heavy rain happening in that particular area or palace, historical sites in summer season. So the possible geographical limit that I'm going to focus on is that Narga Selassie Monastery that you can see from the slide, the map, which is very nearer to the island. So I will focus on that particular area, which is actually very difficult to move there because I am using a water transport to there. And sometimes it's very difficult to transport material for restoration using water transport. Even the similar material or the original material, limestone, is not that much available, very near to Bahadar. It's away from Bahadar, maybe some 400-500 kilometers away from Bahadar. We have to bring that material for any restoration. So lime is the material they have been using by the Ethiopian community to construct that historic monument, historic palaces and churches. So overall problem faced in built heritage is that less, perhaps no attention from the surrounding community, the government for heritage to conserve and restore, and even at least to preserve it as it is. The protection is not given to that heritage. So expansion of farmland and have discussed the evidence of the Palace of Dinkas, which is severely threatening the heritage, and difficulties and maybe problem of accessibility to the site. And some of them are found in Lake Tana, which is an island of Lake Tana, not easy to transport material from conservation and restoration using water transport, and natural and man-made trees plantation in and around. I mean, in very closer to the heritage as evidence of the Deccan and the Guzara Palace, and the mosses, even the fungi, the patina-like, and the bacteria is also another problem I see in the absence of original material for restoration, and the poor restoration, and the lack of fund, and the absence of maybe conservator and restorer, and that is caused maybe for biodeterioration is the problem I see in different sites. So biodeterioration is a very serious problem that I should focus, and I am just thinking and proposing something to test in laboratory, whether the microbial are threatening those heritages or not. And And the way forward, organizing capacity building training for the local community and stakeholder, and creating them awareness about the value of heritage and their significance in the preservation of our identity and the preservation of our history should be organized by maybe the educational institution like Bahadar University, and even the culture and tourism office in regional and even zonal level. It should be organized and give them an awareness about the value of heritage, and that should be done. This is one of the ways how we can preserve our history, how we can preserve our built heritage. And it is also recommended to work closely with international organizations working in heritage conservation, heritage related issues, is like UNESCO, ICO, and even like international university. The University of Antioch is one of the university, and we are receiving different supporters, which is sufficient support in producing professionals in art conservation and restoration for the future. That is really great support that we are just receiving from such an institution. Use the local knowledge of preservation and even collaborated with the scientific way of conservation is also another way forward. Suggest produce experts, conservator, restorer, architect, etc. by launching the educational program in Ethiopian University. Actually, we already started the journey to launch a program in Bahadar University in MA and BA level in art conservation and restoration program. So what is my plan is that this is the premature stage that I have told you so far. The plan I am just starting today, or some months before it, that is developing a proposal how I can deal with such very threatening built heritage in Ethiopia, in particular area which is Narga Selassie Monastery, by getting a support from my local advisors, as well as the advisor from University of Antioch. So based on the proposal, I will exert my maximum effort to come up with a fruitful product, which is a research product, maybe after a couple of years. I thank you very much. This is what I have.
Sorry, I know. Thank you very much. I know this sounds very, very, very promising. First of all, I would like to welcome the new participants. We started a bit earlier since we had extra time. I think we will not do that for the second round because otherwise too many people will miss the beginning of these presentations. But if anyone has a question about Ayanu's research, the heritage sites he has shown, the difficulties he has shown, I can imagine, Ayanu, that you have a lot of questions for yourself for the next coming 3 years. But yes, is there anyone who will wish to share as a question? Dr. Abebe, yes, you may unmute and talk.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ayanu. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, thank you, Ayanu, for your good insights about the problems that we have on built heritages around Lake Tana. And I appreciate your efforts of investigations for developing your concept note. I think you have used only few days, for developing your concept note and proposal. But the production that you have come up is very good, very good. So I appreciate that, and we hope Bahar University will benefit from this project just by making such type of investigations. So I appreciate that. And as a compliment, I have some comments or suggestions, and you may also reflect as questions. You came up with many problems. There are many problems mentioned, but you as a student of 4 or 5 years PhD program, you have to be very focused, and you have to challenge only some problems at a time. So problems can be solved one after another. So which are your focus areas among the problems that you mentioned? Which areas are your focus? And the other issue, as a question maybe, is as you said, you expect a final fruitful product. So what is that final product? Is it a scientific production, or is there any sort of intervention on the heritage sites? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shall I start to talk?
Yes, go ahead, Ainu.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ababa, for your question you raised. So I have been tracing some issues, some problems I felt facing the Ethiopian heritage, but my focus will be some of the challenges that are very common in Lektana Island Monastery, particularly in Narga Selassie. The first one will be the climatic change that will be proven by laboratory experiment. And the second will be the biodeterioration, which is a very serious challenge for the sustainability of the heritage, which includes the presence of fungi, the presence of bacteria, the presence of mosses, and even the growth of different microbials. That is a very serious microorganism available in almost all built heritage that I was visiting. It is also available in the city of Gondar, that is the Palace of Gondar, which is a very surprise. Never cleaned by those guides, and even the people living and very closer to the castle of Gondar. So biodeterioration, how the biodeterioration is threatening that built heritage, and how severe is biodeterioration in Tana Monastery, that is Narga Selassie, will be my focus. So the challenges, and even the way they have been protecting, the way they have been conserving the heritage site will be my focus, and from the historical perspective. And then I will follow to deal with the challenges that I am seeing. So the final product that I am expecting from my research is that the first one is just bringing some awareness about the importance, the way how to conserve the heritage for the local community and the concerned body. After I deal with the problem, and I will organize a training session maybe starting from next year, because this is one of the elements of my PhD thesis. Just contacting and working closely with the local community about the preservation of the heritage will be my focus also. So after organizing a very interesting series of training for the local community and other stakeholders, some know-how will be developed, how to conserve, how to protect, and even how to clean the areas very closer and nearer to the heritage site. So even the product that I am expecting is just publishing some important finding of my research about the preservation, the conservation practices, the way forward is for the sustainability of our built heritage will be also the final product, I believe, if I am not mistaken.
Okay, thank you so much, Ayanu. We have about 8 minutes left. Perhaps it's good to answer quickly, if you can, for 5 minutes, the question of Dr. De Kock. He's also saying that you had a great presentation, and he's asking, to what extent have all the materials, such as natural stone, lime, etc., been studied into detail up to now? Do you have any idea or answer to that? We have about 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I was dealing about the testing of such a stone, the materiality of the monastery originally built with Dr. Gadif, probably my local advisor there. So I will bring some samples to University of Antwerp and do an experiment with Tim and other experts, but nothing is done there about them so far because the political environment is not that much good to do so. So nothing is done. And even it is impossible to bring a sample from there. So next year, maybe it will be applicable, and then I will bring a sample, and we will deal with the materiality and the stones, the lime, which originally the church was built.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That leaves a lot of opportunity to work on that, I suppose, especially since you're working towards the art conservation of that. We do have some additional questions. I will collect them for you. I'm sorry, but I think it's best we continue for the next presentation now. We will connect you with all the speakers, all the people asking you the questions as well, so you can answer them. They're also in the chat box. If you like to answer them there, you can also do that during the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ayanu. That means we are now up for our next presenter, Shimels Ayele, who is also a PhD candidate at the University of Antwerp. Shimels, if you are ready, I'm happy to give you the platform, and you may also introduce yourself, because of course you're also a lecturer at Bahidar University. Shimels, you are still muted, just so you know.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The PowerPoint is visible well?
Yes, you can still make it bigger if you can. Yes.
What about now?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, thank you for giving this chance. I am Shimels Ayele, and a PhD student at the Faculty of Design Science, University of Antwerp, and a lecturer at Bahidar University. and I'm part of the project for opening art conservation education in Bahar Dar University, and that's why I'm being part of the PhD student in University of Antwerp, and I'm working with Professor Dr. Natalia Ortega Saez and Professor Dr. Tim Dekog. And my title in this PhD trajectory is Conservation of Parchment Manuscripts in Lect and Monasteries. And particularly as an introduction, what are parchment manuscripts and how the historical development of parchment manuscripts has been in Ethiopia, and how those parchment manuscripts have been treated in the country. Parchment manuscripts are documents handwritten on processed animal skin. These parchment manuscripts had included a number of arts. For example, the art of calligraphy, the art of parchment preparation, and the art of painting. Those all are can be found within the parchment manuscripts. And this parchment manuscripts has been produced on the parchments as well as using Ethiopic manuscripts. These Ethiopic manuscripts commonly we call Giz, which mean Ha, Hu, He, and the Abgeda alphabets. And this parchment, when we come to the historical development of parchment manuscripts, in the case of Ethiopia, parchment manuscripts had been produced since ancient time. Of course, there are disparities or differences among scholars on the exact beginning of parchment manuscripts. Some of the scholars just trace the origin of or the beginning of parchment manuscript production since the introduction of Christianity to Ethiopia, whereas others traced it back to the BC era. For example, Philipson, an archaeologist, had suggested the beginning of parchment manuscript production since the 800 BC, based on his analysis made on the materials used for parchment production. But significant and well reserved and well evidenced parchments had been sustained to this day since the 16th century, particularly the Abba Garima Gospel in the monastery of Abba Garima is very well known and which survived to this day, which is still found in Tigray. And since that time, parchment manuscripts had been produced in Ethiopia and in a greater extent. And to the 1980s, the number of parchment manuscripts had been, it was more than 200,000. These manuscripts were in the form of codex, in the form of scrolls, and in the form of the accordion books. And these parchment manuscripts had and still has different values for the Ethiopians and the international community. And I'm going to discuss on this different values of the manuscripts. The manuscripts had culture or religious values. Most of the books are considered as sacred, and the contents inside the manuscripts are religious, the gospel, the different books of Bible, and some other. Of course, there are also secular books, but most of, or a large number of manuscripts are concerning on religious issues and still served as for ritual practices or ecclesiastical practices. The other is the manuscripts have historical value. That means to understand, to know, to trace how the development or how technological advancement had been made on the life of humans, particularly in the Horn of Africa. In addition, the manuscripts also had sentimental value because just in the era of the Ethiopian Orthodox Christians, they believe that the manuscripts had been written by their forefathers, religious devotees, and the religious leaders, and they love their religious leaders. They have affection for their forefathers, and that was produced by their loved ones, and they are being proud of the parchment manuscripts on having in different parts of the country. The other one is research value. The parchment manuscripts had research values to conduct research, to know more about the different, it may be historical, it may be some other scientific research. For example, as you have seen in the picture, this part is very important to conduct research on the history of the region. It talks about the process, how different saints had been teaching one another. It starts from Antonius to the coming of Abu Nahir Tamlak, which means the founder of Daga Stephanus, and he had been learned from others, and it trusted from Abu Naragawi, who was the founder of Dabra Damu. Therefore, it has very significant research value. Whereas in the next picture shows that it talks about the inventory of the different materials within the church. Particularly, this part is talking about the ecclesiastical books and the manuscripts within the store of Intons Jesus, which is in the monastery of the Islam monastery in Lake Tana. Therefore, this manuscripts had some, and still have some research values. The other is economic value. Simply, they are a source of attraction for tourists and just a source of tourism and other significant values. And here is the region where I am going to focus on my study, and the Lake Tana region, or the monasteries in Lake Tana. Just to give you an introduction about Lake Tana region and the different monasteries inside it. It is the largest lake in Ethiopia, and it has 84 kilometers long and 65 kilometers broad. This lake is endowed with different cultural heritage, as my colleague Ayeno has presented. You have seen the different built heritages, also the different movable heritage also available in the different monasteries of Lake Tana, different ecclesiastical books, the different materials, the crown, the vestments, and a lot of other cultural heritage stored in the different Iceland monasteries of Lake Tana. And in this lake, 37 scattered islands are there, and some 20 of which are shelters, churches, and the monasteries. And even though there are some traces and origins of the monasteries since the BC or just to the Old Testament eras, like Tana Kirkos, most of the monasteries began to flourish since the 13th century due to the expansion of Christianity to the northwestern Ethiopia. And these monasteries, they store a significant number of parchment manuscripts, as you have seen. For example, this part is it's stored shelved in Kabran Gabriel, and this one is from Ura Kidanemeret, and the other here it from this one is from Daga Stephanus, and this also the artwork in Ura Kidanemeret. Therefore, I am going to study or I'm going to focus on the monasteries of Daga Stephanus, Ura Kidanemeret, Tana Kirkos, Kabran Gabriel, and Devra Mariam monasteries in the Lake Tana, particularly the southern half of Lake Tana region. And when we see the monasteries in the manuscripts in the monasteries, most of the manuscripts are age-old, ancient word that traced from the ancient time. Based on my preliminary study in the area, I have seen the Book of Clement in Ura Kidanemeret, which traced from the 9th century, Of course, there are also claims about the hymens of Saint Yared in Anakirkos monastery from the 6th century. Thus, manuscripts can be divided into 3 remarkable periods. Some of them are from early medieval Ethiopian period, from the 14th and 15th century. This period was also considered the golden age of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. A number of manuscripts, manuscripts had been produced. The religion also expanded into different part of the region. And in the meantime, the manuscript production, calligraphy, the art of writing, and the art of painting also flourished at that time. And most of the manuscripts in the Lake Islands are from this period. And all these manuscripts are not produced inside the Lake Islands. Particularly, those were transported to the Lake Islands due to the 16th century political upheaval in the region. There were 2 major political upheavals in the 16th century that threatened the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Therefore, in order to protect this manuscripts, the religious devotees, the monks, and the different supporters or custodians of the manuscripts had taken to the Lake Islands in order to make them safe from the destruction. The other is Gondorian manuscripts, of course. Gondor was it's become a capital city since the 17th century, and it became a center of learning. It became a center of excellence on behalf of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and calligraphy, painting, and even buildings were expanded. And since the lake is near to Gondar, and some of the Gondorian kings had interest on the Lake Islands, and they used to visit the monasteries and the church there, there had been manuscript productions, and even the manuscripts produced from the mainland areas were sent to the monasteries, and royal families also they commissioned for the production of manuscripts in order to give for the monasteries. The other is the modern era since the 9th century and the 20th century. Having said this, what are the practical problems facing the manuscripts in the Lake Islands? Their degradation and deterioration, and I'm going to see the different forms. The first, what I have seen while I was there, there's steering. This steering is both on the folios and the binding of books. The folios have been losing the materials inside, and they're also the tearing of bindings, the threads that attached the codex were teared, and it is fragmented, as you have seen here. The other is discoloring. The manuscripts are losing their original colors, and they are decaying, and there is a gelatinization of the manuscripts. The other one is missing texts due to the tearing and losing and the holes. Texts are missed inside the manuscripts, as you have seen here. Pleating and folding, also the other difficult and very serious problem observed on the manuscripts. Stains by dust and soot, which covered the notes on the manuscripts. The dust stayed for long on the folios, and the soot which attached strongly with the manuscripts and covered the notes. The other is missing or losing the part or whole of the manuscripts. A number of manuscripts had been losing from the monasteries. This may be due to a number of factors. Having said this, all the practical problems observed on the source of Lake Tana monasteries what are the real causes? What are the real causes? The first, there is insect attack causes for the degradation. There are insects, just like you have seen here. There is a tear or a hole taken by an insect. Theft and illegal trafficking is the other serious problem, which is causing the destruction or the losing of manuscripts. Civil war, of course, the civil war in this case, maybe the manuscripts had arrived to the monasteries due to protect them from the different civil wars occurred in the region. Invasion, flooding, and fire accidents are also common. There have been fire accidents in Daga Stephanos once upon a time in the 19th century. There were also the fire accident in Urakidana Mirat, and those fire accidents had been causing destruction on the manuscripts. Poor handling system was also the other difficulty, particularly those custodians or storekeepers in the museums of the monasteries used to protect the manuscripts, just putting one over the other or putting them aside within the dark places or just in the area which is not clear. If they want to protect it from the aligned interested individuals. And the other is unprofessional and unwise conservation and restoration practices, where the other cause, for example, as you have seen here, there is a problem, or there is a degradation caused by the microfilming and digitization process. It is a manuscript from Cabran Gabriel. It's a manuscript from Cabran Gabriel. It is written on the manuscript, which means it is microfilmed, and it tells about it is the manuscript of Cabran. And also they wrote a page, and this was not only on this page, but also in many other manuscripts which were microfilmed by Ethiopian manuscript microfilm manuscript library. All the manuscripts microfilmed by this hold the pages written by a pen. There also the stamp, which is not part of originally not part of the manuscript. And then we have the problems facing we have seen the problems facing the manuscripts. There is also traditional conservation efforts. This traditional conservation efforts have helped us to make or to survive the manuscripts for centuries. What are these traditions? For example, there had been stores which were built by the local communities, which were built by the institutions or by the commissioning of royal families, just like the case in Cabran Gabriel, just like the case in Daga Stephanos. There are stores to protect the manuscripts. In addition, there had been inventory system made every time on the manuscripts and other materials. And this inventory system was also written on the manuscripts, particularly at the beginning and end of the manuscripts. We have seen a lot of traditions in that way. The other is the appointment of storekeepers. For example, in the time of Emperor Iyasu, the first, there was a Bajrun, and the other, after that one, there were the Ekabites. Therefore, there had been traditional conservation methods. We have the problems. And what I'm going to do next, what I'm going to conduct is to understand the real problem, what the manuscripts are facing, and to understand the traditional conservation efforts made on these manuscripts. Therefore, the way manuscripts had been conserved for centuries should be studied. It should be understood from the side of Ethiopians, and practically what are the current level of deterioration is being observed on the manuscripts. And after all, I'm going to suggest appropriate conservation methods to the manuscripts on the Lake Iceland monasteries. That's all about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Shimels. It was a very interesting talk. I think we have a few more minutes for questions. So anyone who would else have a question, please write them in the chat box. For now, I see that Dr. Abebe already raised a question. He says, excellent effort, Shimels. If your study is on restoration of parchment manuscripts, oh, now the box just disappeared. I have to look again. I think it was mostly about what were your experiences on the local sites. What were your experiences on conservation when you visited the local sites? I think the question was raised before you started talking about the traditional conservation practices, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Can you repeat, Naomi?
Yes. So Dr. Abebe asked, if your studies on restoration of parchment manuscripts, what are the local experiences you observed during your concept notes productions? Like, what have you experienced when you visited the local places of where people keep the manuscripts on their practices?
Yeah, thank you. Traditionally, they are trying to restore, repair, and to preserve the manuscripts. For example, they used to store and they used to have covers for the manuscripts. They used to put the manuscripts on the cabinets. They also used to sew the tiered manuscripts using parchments and using the Sino. Therefore, there is traditional way of conserving the manuscripts. There is an attempt, and even conservation is not only about restoring, but also taking care of the manuscripts. Therefore, there is traditional attempt.
Okay, thank you so much. If anyone else has a question, I would maybe for the last 5 minutes, I would like to ask, you did already a great mapping of the damages and the challenges in this project. How can you find, your PhD is established in Belgium, so I'm sure you will learn a lot of, you will get a great experience of material technical knowledge and research on that. Where do you find the balance between the traditional approach and the more international scientific approach? Have you started writing a method for that, or how do you approach that topic? Because I can imagine it's not always easy to find a balance in this.
Yeah, just for the time being, I'm just reading and reviewing literatures of the international approach, but also I'm going to search the traditional approach there, because I have only made a preliminary survey there, but I will collect information practically from those who are working over there in and around Lake Tana monasteries, and I will be engaged in the library works and the archives. There are a lot of archives, and there are also digitized manuscripts, how they have been conserved, how they had been treated, how they had been held or survived for this time. such as the Ethiopian Institute of Ethiopian Studies, the Ethiopian National Library Agency, and also the different libraries of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. I hope those all will provide me the traditional basis of conserving the parchment manuscripts and the cares that had been given for the parchment. On this side, while I'm here in Belgium, just I'm trying to review, I'm trying to see the international approach. Even I will take courses about that, and just I'm reading this. Do you get me, Naomi?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
That's all about.
Yes, yes, really wonderful. Thank you so much, Shimels. I think many people are looking forward to rewatch your presentation and to get in touch with you. It's a super
Okay, thank
interesting
you.
topic. Thank you. All right, we are a little bit ahead, so I would like to maybe start in about 5 minutes with our next presenter, who is Gloria Mananti, who is also working on Ethiopian collections as an art conservator. Gloria, if it's okay, we will wait a bit, about 5 minutes, because otherwise people might miss the introduction.
Of course.
Great. I think in the same time, Blaine, I'm sorry, I just noticed that you raised your hand for a question. We have about 5 minutes if you want. Yes, I can hear you. It's... Oh, sorry. I think it's a bit, it's very soft. Maybe it's because of the distance between the microphone.
Perhaps, is it any better now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to ask a quick question to Shemelis if we have a few minutes. Just a great presentation, Shemelis. Presented all the challenges, I think, which are very concerning. I wanted to ask, like, in your view, once you finish your PhD and once you sort of present with the different traditional conservation methods and so on, given the vast amount of manuscripts all across the country, how do you think we have to engage either with the Ethiopian Orthodox Church or with universities so that we have some sort of national strategy to deal with the manuscripts? So it's very theoretical and hypothetical, but I was wondering if Shemelis had any thoughts about that.
Okay, thank you, Blaine. Can I speak, Naomi?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, of course, working with manuscripts is not an easy task because most of the manuscripts are owned by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and they are considered as sacred, and we have to first we have to work closely with the Ethiopian Orthodox Church in creating awareness and taking them to be part of this conservation and restoration practice. And we have to take a lesson from also them. They have already some practices, and they should be also close work with the authorities, the community, and we have to work strongly with the awareness creation and engaging in practices by showing them how to work, how to restore, how to conserve, and how to treat it, and working with with the different universities and working with the different authorities of the country, because those manuscripts are very rare, and it will be difficult to work with them. As a result, we have to engage a lot of stakeholders, but the problem I share is there are limitations of national policies, limitations on rules and procedures, how to deal with them.
Okay, thank you. Secretary Selassie, you also had a question. We are in the last minutes, if you want.
Yes, a very fast one. So my question is for Shimelis. Do we have a national maintenance procedure or some sort of standard for manuscripts? And also the other is some manuscripts have been returned from abroad. Do you have any updates on their status, how they're being handled? Can you access them? The ones at the church, it might be difficult, but the ones that have been repatriated, do you have any information about them?
Okay, thank you, Fakir Selassie. To this time, we don't have, for my reading, I didn't get national standard, but just like other heritage, the heritage should be handled this way, that way, or the heritage should be conserved this way, that way. But there is no specific standard for, as my concern in for my reading, there is no specific standard, there is no specific procedure forwarded for the manuscripts. Regarding to the access for the manuscripts, yes, I have heard recently about the repatriation of manuscripts from abroad, but I would hear that for the last time, and just my project is at its infant stage. When I get back there, I will try to access the manuscripts. Even I have also a plan to access both the digitized and the collections in the Institute of Ethiopian Studies and the National Library and the archives and the library agency. I will try to access. I have the information, of course. There are some manuscripts which are already being repatriated. Thank you, Fakir Selassie.
All right. I think Natalie, are you? Sorry, I just saw something popping up. Okay, yeah. Natalie also wrote some comments in the chat box. I think it's nice to also have a look at that. So thank you very much, Shimels. I think now we can commence with Gloria. Gloria, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, do you see everything?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so good morning, everybody, first of all, and really congratulations for the great projects that you were exposing before because they're really interesting. So first of all, I would like to thank the Ethiopian Art Conservation Program for giving me the opportunity to present the research I carried out, first as part of my master thesis at the University of Turin in Italy, in collaboration with the Conservation and Restoration Center La Venaria Reale, and now as part of my PhD at the University L'Orientale of Naples. So both the research projects, which we can say are consequential, dealt with the reconstruction on the basis of material evidence of diplomatic events that occurred between the Empire of Ethiopia and the Kingdom of Italy in the second half of the 19th century, with the main protagonists Umberto I, King of Italy, and Menelik II, Emperor of Ethiopia. With the aim to introduce you all to the topic, it's easy to admit that Italian collection holds significant evidences of the relations between the Empire of Ethiopia and the Kingdom of Italy. Investigating the exchange of diplomatic gifts could shed light on the intricate diplomatic relations between the two powers. After years of neglect due to the desire to avoid the delicate debate on the colonial legacy, they are finally being analyzed and studied, making it possible to retrace an important stage in Ethiopian and Italian history. So, where are these objects conserved? The material heritage linked to the exchanges is scattered in various collections, often linked to the former dynasty, the Savoia. The most important collections are the Museo delle Civiltà in Rome, Museum of Civilization, which houses objects from the former Pigorini Prehistoric and Ethnographic Museum, strictly linked to the royal family, and the Royal Museums in Turin, which I thank for letting me share this work. The Royal Armory inside of the Royal Museums in Turin is particularly noteworthy. The Royal Armory in Turin, without doubt, conserves one of the most extensive collection of Italian relics. Situated in the Royal Palace of the Savoy, as I said before, the monarchs of Italy deposited there the most important items, such as the diplomatic gifts. So between these gifts, a notable case study is the so-called Abyssinian drum EU-100, a precious specimen of Kebero gifted by Menelik II to Umberto I on the occasion of the Shewan mission to Italy for the ratification of the Treaty of Wuchale, 1889. The proposed study is the result of a complex interdisciplinary research developed in progress, in which historical research and the preliminary studies have provided adequate knowledge of the object, with which it was possible to define a suitable restoration methodology. The research, which lasted 2 years as the final work for the Mastering Conservation and Restoration of Cultural Heritage, was carried out in the following steps, all of which were necessary for the conservation purposes. There was no information about the artifact other than the historical tags, which you can see in the pictures. So the first step was the identification of the artifact, observation, and comparisons. Then I proceeded with the definition, as much as possible, of the conservation history. Then applied for scientific analysis to characterize the materials and define a suitable restoration intervention. And finally, the intervention itself. So for the research, I started from the identification of the artifact. Forgetting that the drum is a kebero, a symbol of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the first step to make is to determine elements and materials. So at a former optical analysis, it's possible to affirm that it is a polymaterial artifact consisting of a metal cylindrical conical sounding board, 2 membranes, a tensioning system, 2 handles, and a textile shoulder strap with a red lining. The decorative apparatus consists of a central Greek cross or square cross, the centerpiece of the composition, and bands. The square cross, reproduced in engraving on the Abyssinian drum, shows naturalistic accents that allude to the generative and life-giving power of the cross. Solomon's knots can be identified in the branches. The frequent use of this motif refers to the Solomonic lineage to which Menelik II belongs. Most important, near the upper arm of the cross are situated 2 inscriptions obtained by engraving. They present a different state of conservation. Both are in Ge'ez. On the left is the more extensive inscription, which conservation is very bad, due to the desire to erase the text because of the change of use of the drum, as I will say later. On the left is the smaller and better preserved inscription, which meaning was known. It reads, King of Kings, Menelik of Ethiopia. So the identification of the Abyssinian drum as a kebero is of fundamental importance for reconstructing its conservation history. From bibliography, there are three mainly percussion instruments in Ethiopia, the negarit, the tamo, and the kebero. The tamo, used in a folkloric context, is characterized by its small size. In the conical case, made of wood or clay, are placed little things, still from bibliography. For this was suddenly excluded. The negarit, used in the secular context, is an emblem of power and authority. Its importance is such that it is often confused with the equally important kebero, a symbol of the ecclesiastical context. The negarit is a membranophone characterized by hemispherical case of varying size, and so for this reason, the research shift to the kebero, a cylindrical conical drum made of wood or copper, gold, and silver. It depends on the wealth of the church or the liberality of the donor. But the finding of a specimen that is very close in both scope and type to the Abyssinian drum U100, the Turin's one, the Kirchentrommel from the Linden Museum in Stuttgart allowed a comparison of the two instruments. The decoration is very similar, if not equal, to the decoration of the Abyssinian drum of Turin. Oeringer's essay on Abyssinian manuscript in the Linden Museum shows that the inscription contains both the word kebero and the indication of the donor, Menelik II. The rarity of the metal case kebero, the morphological and decorative proximity, and the coincidence of the data, 1886, allow the hypothesis of common origin to be put forward. In order to objectively define the type of instrument, the hornbone cell sex classification was used. The identification leads to a helpful bibliography. So, the conservation history. As said before, the research is the product of comprehensive interdisciplinary examination, incorporating historical and preliminary studies to formulate a restoration methodology. Through the examination of archival sources, the study of gaze inscriptions on the soundbox, and constant dialogue with experts, it was possible to outline the troubled conservation history of the object. So, how it arrived in Italy? This was the real question. The conservation history of Abyssinian drum U100 is divided into two different phases, divided by the change of destination of the object, which occurred in view of its arrival, as we will see. The conservation history of the drum prior to its arrival in Italy emerged thanks to the translation of the inscription located to the left of the cross, for which I really thank Dr. Vion. The reading of the text became possible thanks to the cleaning process that took place during the intervention. As is customary for the other types of gifts in the Ethiopian ecclesiastical sphere, there is an indication of the object, the name of the purchaser, the place to which the artifact was donated, and the date of the event. It seemed that the first destination was the Church of the Trinity in the Dabra region, to which Taitu, wife of the Negas Menelik of Shewa, donated. The town of Dabra is intimately linked to the figure of Menelik II. There, in 1878, he was crowned Negus of Shewa. At the end of the inscription, there is a date, probably the year of the donation. Unfortunately, due to the attempted deletion, it is not possible to read the last number, which remains doubtful. It could therefore bear 1881 or 1884 of the Ethiopian calendar, I mean. Since the conversion to the Gregorian calendar and given the arrival of the drum in Italy 1889, we tend to accept 1881 as the correct year of donation. Then, in order to ratify the Treaty of Wuchale between Shewa and Italy, a Shewan mission was sent to the Kingdom of Italy, headed by the Jacques Makonnen. On the 28th August 1889 took place the meeting with King Umberto. This was followed by presentation of the gifts: ivory, royal crosses, panther skin cloak, shields, spears, and a negarit that, in fact, is our kebero. The inscription to the right of the cross was probably affixed for this occasion. The gifts presented to King Umberto by the Shewan, then Ethiopian delegation, were in part immediately addressed to the Royal Armoury in Turin and to the Pigorini Museum. In 1890, the Abyssinian drum was at the so-called exotic collection. Between 1896, Battle of Adwa, and 1940, it's included in the colonial collections. During this period, the colonial weapons and artifacts received at the Royal Armoury were promptly musealized. Display of gifts and memorabilia was part of the broader fascist propaganda discourse. With the end of the fascist period, the objects related to the colonialism were moved to storage till nowadays. As we know, Ethiopian artifacts are unfortunately often only investigated from an artistic, historical point of view. And for this reason, there are not so many bibliographic references in the material aspect. In order to obtain, I mean, in European libraries, but I hope to find more bibliography when I hope in Ethiopia or speaking with you. In order to obtain as much information as possible to carry out a respectful restoration, non-destructive and microdestructive analyses have been conducted to identify the materials and technique used. All of these within the scientific laboratories of CCR La Veneria Reale. In particular, an in-depth analysis campaign was carried out circa the metal elements, in particular the sound box sheets. The designation silver drum were in fact inconsistent with the dimensions and the functionality of the artifact. The analyses performed were non-destructive, such as UV fluorescence, radiography, X-ray fluorescence spectrophotometry, and microdestructive as LIBS. The good metal consistency and stability of the object do not make it appropriate to disassemble the elements and to carry out invasive analysis. Radiographic analysis revealed the absence of a support within the sound box, and the absence of small objects within the structure was also verified. The stability of the structure is confirmed, and are visible the signs of the formation process by beating and eating. In order to learn about the composition of the metal elements, a series of XRF surveys were carried out. The analysis points revealed the homogeneity of the alloys, most of which were characterized by copper and silver. Further investigations were proposed in relation to a probable silver plating technique. For this purpose, the LIBS microdestructive analytical technique carried out thanks to the CNR of Pisa was selected in order to obtain a precise indication of the composition of the sounding board foils. The absence of zinc gave rise to the hypothesis of a foiling consisting of different compositions, a surface rich in silver and an underlying part characterized by a copper-zinc alloy, brass. The quantitative analysis also provides the intrinsic silver content that characterizes the surface. The silver included in the surface is present in the range of 80 to 85%, a composition comparable with the thaler of Maria Theresa of Austria, widespread in the Horn of Africa in the period of our interest. The study could confirm that bibliographical data was reporting, so the use of this material for valuable artistic artifacts in the Ethiopian context. The reported observations led to a non-chemical restoration approach. And so, let's see the conservation state of the elements. The Abyssinian drum is composed of several metal elements in a fairly good state of preservation, characterized by a good metal consistency, penalizing fruition by several surface alterations such as sulfuration and the accumulation of incoherent deposit. Abrasions of varying degrees, probably due to an inadequate support, are located particularly at the narrowing of the drum. Previous interventions are excluded. For the latter, comparison with known samples of animal eyes revealed compatibility with coaoid, probably calfskin. Both membranes are characterized by high stiffness, and deposit affect all the leather elements. Abrasions are widespread on all surfaces. as you can see in the photo. For the textile, analysis of erratic samples under the optical microscope made it possible to identify the cotton fiber. For the yarns characterized by red dye, the use of a dye of vegetable origin is assumed. The shoulder strap consists of a red dyed cover and a bed padding. The surface is characterized by areas where the dye has different saturation due to different exposure. The upholstery is affected by abrasion and lacunae of varying degrees. And we arrive to the intervention. The decision not to refunctionalize the artifact implied the decision not to proceed with the dismantling and the retensioning of the two membranes. The drum was not donated in function of its nature as a musical instrument, but rather in function of its present importance and prominence as a representative of the Ethiopian Empire. Restoring the drum to its original function would therefore have been a grave error of disrespect of the historical instance. So in order to satisfy the minimum intervention principles also, it was decided to proceed only for the aesthetic restitution, identifying a highly controllable cleaning method that allows modulated and gradual removal of alteration. For the metal elements, the level of cleaning was the result of a compromise between the need to respect the historical instance, as we were saying before, and the desire to allow better legibility of the surface, in particular the writing, the inscription. The complete removal of the surface sulfurization was avoided. The partial removal of the alteration was carried out through the use of micronized calcium carbonate, an inert abrasive, whose action was assisted by lignoin, a mild lubricant. The decision not to remove the membranes meant that it was necessary to identify more punctual cleaning methods in order to allow in-depth intervention, even in the areas most difficult to reach. Furthermore, the diversification of the sulfurization made it necessary to identify a methodology that would allow a more circumscribed cleaning action. The product selected is Faber-Castell Perfection 7057 gown, the pink tip. And at the end of operation, the treated portions were swabbed with acetone in order to remove any residue produced. Literature research identified the optimum response to the requirements for a suitable metal surface protection in the use of a 10% solution of pyroid B44 acrylic resin in acetone and ethyl lactate in a 1:1 ratio. Both membranes were subjected to removal of inconsistent and poorly adhered deposit by lightly rubbing the surface with different John microporous sponges made of polyurethane. At the end, in order to prevent any residues of the sponges from remaining, the affected surfaces were microaspirated with variable power like 9-10 kilopascal. The cleaning of the shoulder strap was carried out by controlled microaspiration of the surface, still with a pressure of 10 kilopascal. The portions in a worse state of conservation were secured by placing a tool shield between the surface to be cleaned and the microaspirator. For the consolidation of the upholstery, silk organza was used as the restoration material. It also allows the intervention to be easily recognized. Portions profiled with zigzag scissors were inserted into the gaps at the intermediate position between upholstery and support. And here it is, after the wall intervention, in all of its beauty. The Abyssinian drum U100 is back in storage, but the increasing interest in Ethiopian and African artifacts and their diplomatic links has led to various events, such as the first exhibition of this important legacy in Turin, Africa le collezioni dimenticate, or Africa the Forgotten Collections. The analysis of the evidences regarding the political and diplomatic relations between the two countries have been expanded in the framework of the doctoral project that has just begun at the Università L'Orientale of Naples, which aims to analyze the Umberto I, our friend, and the Regina Margherita donations, Museum of Civilization in Rome, and the Aosta Fund, Biblioteca Nazionale in Naples, National Library of Naples. The project regarding the cataloging, analysis, and provenance of ethnographic, cartographic, and naturalistic materials related to the Savoia dynasty and its diplomatic exchanges with the Solomonic dynasty, in particular Menelik II. Obviously, to fulfill these objectives, we will rely on Ethiopian institutions such as the National Library, the Institute of Ethiopian Studies, and what will hopefully be a wide and fruitful network of collaboration, starting with the project that made today's meeting possible. So at the end of this brief presentation, I would like to once again thank the Ethiopian Art Conservation Program for giving me the opportunity to participate in this meeting. I thank you again and see you soon.
Thank you so much, Gloria. What an elaborate talk on your topic. I'm checking, first of all, if anyone has questions. Okay, I see Professor Ortega. She's asking already in the chat box, do you have any idea from which vegetal source the red dyes are?
Okay, yes, I did some research on this, but actually I have to find the right definition of the plant that was used, but I will send it anyway. As I said, there is not so much bibliography, but I found some articles that explain it really in a good way. Anyway, it's in the Linneo definition, so I actually don't remember the name, but I will share it, everything, of course. And I hope that there will be more occasion to speak about this. And of course, this is one of the topic of my project, the PhD project, because I will focus on materials. So of course, vegetable dyes are really important on textile and on the trade thing. So I will share everything, and I hope to share more information further.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Fikerelasi, you had also a question? Please
Yes. Okay. Thanks for the great presentation. My question is regarding the technical aspect of it. Do we have any possibility of accessing what has been done to the drums, like maintenance, cataloging? What standards do you use to maintain it? Because we have similar heritage of the same period, some of them even earlier. So if we can have access to what has been done to them, it would be a parallel experience for us to maintain or to properly look after our heritage here as well.
Okay, so thank you for the question, first of all. And the information about this drum is not published yet, but it's my master degree thesis, so I really hope to publish it and to share the knowledge about it. The other drum, the Stuttgart one, is really impossible to find. This is a real problem. I really would love to reach the museum to make a further investigation on it. It was possible to find information about it only writing to the museum and the conservators of African collections. But I'm convinced that it's necessary to share this knowledge. So I hope that we can make like a net for cataloging these artifacts. But I don't know if you were asking for the Orbol Sax cataloging methods. Well, there is a project about it. It's called the MIMO project. It ran in, I think, in 2006, and was sponsored by the European Union. Inside of this, there is like a revisitation of the Orbol-Sax theory. And also you can find in digital database all the objects that are in all of the museums. I mean, the instrumental, the music instruments. But it's really important also to have the Orbol-Sax table to define the code of the instrument, so it will be more easy to find it. Anyway, if you need more information about this, I can share with you all the links that I have and all the material that I have about this database. It's a database I continue to say about all the instruments that are gathered in the collection here in Europe. So you can find Queberó, you can find Negarit, but also you can find, I don't know, guitars and liras, all the objects that are in the museums. But maybe we can start with cataloging these kind of artifacts from that platform. I don't know if I answered.
No, you answered it well. I can't wait to see your finished thesis, so that it will be a very good guide for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope to stay in touch with you and to collaborate with you for make it possible also to find more information about these things.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Gloria. We also look forward to host you sometime soon in Belgium, so we can
Hope.
also discuss this.
Really hope to see you soon.
Okay, I think then we can start going forward with Ilaria. Ilaria, if you are ready for it,
Yes.
I'm very happy to also give you the platform, and you can introduce yourself first as well.
Okay.
It's really thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Ilaria, a PhD student from the University of Naples Orientale. Like Gloria, I am doing a research on the paintings or object that belongs to the colonial period. And today I will present a part of my research. So I will share my screen, but I will switch my camera so the connection will be much better. And let me know if you can see the presentation. Can you see?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I will start. So good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you, Naomi, and Delay and the University of Antwerp for organizing this online conference and for allowing me to present my ongoing research. I'm very glad to be part of this community of researchers, PhD students, and scholars who work on the preservation and valorization of Ethiopia's cultural and artistic heritage. Today's presentation will consist of 5 points: introduction to the topic, definition and origins, subject, commercialization process, and artists and patrons. What I am presenting today is just a little part of my doctoral research that I have been conducting at the Oriental University of Naples for about a year. The documentary basis of this project includes 100 works, especially paintings on canvas, on wood, on parchment, kept in the storeroom of the Museum of Civilization in Rome. It is a heterogeneous collection dated approximately between the end of the 19th century and the first half of the 20th century. This collection is very significant because it constitutes a large part of the artistic production of those years, now preserved in a European museum. It is also the starting point for a comparison with other paintings of similar production preserved in other European and Ethiopian museums. A preliminary remark has to be made to frame today's topic. Pictorial art in Ethiopia has always been predominantly ecclesiastical and has survived to modern times as a living Christian art. Traditional Ethiopian painting is very conservative, like any art that primarily serves a religious cult. An Ethiopian art historian, Elizabeth Welget-Georgis, has written, echoing some position of intellectuals, that tradition can be the space in which new directions of expression are experimented and those affirmed or chosen. In the painting production of 19th and 20th century, however, the tradition was never abandoned, but made way for new subjects and new techniques to meet the needs of a different market and different patterns. It is crucial to understand this transition, that artistic production is always affected by contemporary events, so understanding the historical and cultural context is always necessary. One of the many questions I am trying to answer through this research is how and when these canvases came to Italy. According to archival sources of the museum, some of the objects belong to the colonial section of the International Exhibition of Marine and Maritime Hygiene held in Genova, northern Italy in 1914. We know that the paintings were initially collected in the former Italian Colonial Museum in Rome, founded in 1923. Most probably the entire collection was already in the museum at that time. Over the years, the museum was closed and reopened until its final closure in the 70s. Some years after the collection were entrusted to the Italian Institute for Africa, it was only in 2017 that the collection of the Colonial Museum entered the Museum of Civilization. What about the definition of this art? As in all historical disciplines, the problem arises of defining artistic movements and sensibilities. How should this type of painting be defined or labeled? Authors like Chojnacki classify it as a degeneration from the early period of Gondorian art. Instead, if we look further into the European literature dealing with this period, this type of art is defined in various ways. Secular painting, folk or popular painting, traditional painting, and contemporary painting in traditional style. What about the origin? This art can be traced back to the late 19th century when Emperor Menelik II, then still King of Shewa, founded Addis Ababa as his capital in 1866. Menelik II expanded his territory to the south through military expedition and promoted modern institutions and infrastructures. Like his predecessor, Emperors Theodorus and Johannes IV, Menelik and his wife, Empress Taitu, erected churches and had them decorated, so the new capital became a magnet for painters. At the same time, with the arrival of more and more foreigners and legation in the city, in the wave of Menelik modernization program, the demand for work and also for Ethiopian keepsake grew. Beside the traditional production for churches and the local nobility, painters began to paint for new European customers like generals, soldiers, officers, foreign residents, and also tourists. It was essential to start from the individual works to reconstruct the characteristic of the collection. It was noted that the subject of ecclesiastical and religious paintings, such as the enthroned Virgin and Child, equestrian signs, such as St. George and St. Mercurius, continued to be part of local production. To these religious themes were added new subjects, such as battles and hunting scenes, scenes on everyday life, court life, portraiture, and finally legends. The most important, the legend of the Queen Makeda and King Solomon, and later, current events such as the first landing of a plane in Addis Ababa were introduced in painting. This new subject expressed the inspiration of the painter himself and sometimes the wishing of his clientele. Now I will briefly present some of the painting of the collection in Rome. Here we have three paintings of the Virgin Mary holding the child. This is the most common subject in Ethiopian religious painting. Mary usually wears the clothes of a rich noblewoman, and in some paintings, in this case, we can see some traces of European models. Another important theme is St. George. In most paintings, St. George is depicted riding a white horse and rescuing from death a young woman called Birutawit, the girl from Beirut who had been tied to a tree to be sacrificed to a dragon. Then we have the depiction of saints such as the Claymanot, Gebremanfas Kedus, or San Mercurius. Then we have war scenes of battle against internal and external enemies. Particularly popular were the battles in which victory came to the Ethiopians, like the Battle of Gudagudi or Gundet, 1875, which led to the victory over the Egyptians. Then the two battles against the Italian, Ambalaji and Kwatit, Adwa. And also battles from the previous century were also used as pictorial motifs, such as the decisive battle against the Muslim Muhammad Gran, who was defeated in the 16th century with the help of the Portuguese at Zantara on Lake Tana. Then we have the hunting expedition. So the killing of a wild animal was equated with the elimination of a certain numbers of enemies in war. The killing of an elephant, for example, was considered a test of a man's maturity and his ability to marry. And then we have portraiture, and we can say that portraiture was born in Ethiopia during the end of the 19th century, thanks also to the introduction of the camera. Here we have an example. Okay. And then we have the paintings that narrate through a succession of scenes the story of Makeda and the Queen of Sheba and her meeting with the King Solomon. The tradition dates back to the 14th century when the Nebura Ed Yezak wrote in Ge'ez the work entitled Gebre Negest. And here we have some moments of the journey of Queen Makeda to the court of King Solomon. Okay, and then the last theme is the scene of daily life. Here, the painters immortalize practically everything that came before their eyes. So agricultural work, village life, house building, cooking food. And these images are really interesting and important because they represent traditional life in Ethiopia. So they are really important for ethnographic work. Okay, so we go on. What about the commercialization process? So towards the end of the 19th century, when Ethiopian politics turned more and more towards Europe, painters also received commission from foreign diplomats and businessmen. As these clients usually did not want religious themes for their paintings, the painters had to depict secular subjects. Thus, the character of the painting changed according to the market. Art no longer circulated based on traditional mechanisms, whereby an Ethiopian painter worked for a noble patron or a ruler and was rewarded with land rights or sometimes with a civil commission, but rather according to a market logic. The artist, before the 20th century, the figure of the painter in Ethiopia was mostly anonymous. Few painters signed their works. Signing himself was unusual in traditional art, but also unnecessary, as the artist was known and recognized by his contemporaries. He did not paint for anonymous buyer, but for a known client or a certain institution. The painters were usually priests, monks, or debtera who received commission. Between the end of the 19th century and the beginning of 20th century, the figure of the painter became more important. and the first signed works began to be seen. Artists were both traditionally trained painters who produced for foreigners, and at the same time, they worked for the nobility and the church. Concerning the collection in Rome, a small proportion of these paintings are signed and dated. However, as these were often commissioned work that collectors ordered directly from the painter, the name of the artist in question was sometimes mentioned in the collector's letters or books. The artistic personality who signed themselves in this collection are Aberre Belay, Kelemework, Abreha, Beailu, Belacho Yemer, Aleke Berane, Bela Yohannes, Beailu Gebre Mariam, Yohannes Tesema, and Tedle of Abdi. The designation of painter, Seeli, often precedes their name, but little is known about their biography. In some cases, we find the Italian form Vittore in Ethiopian characters. We know that many painters work around the capital, Addis Ababa, thanks also to a Georgian entrepreneur who established a factory inside a hotel for the production of Ethiopian paintings. He is said to have employed between 10 and 15 painters who live in their own homes, but spend the whole day in his workshop. Most of them had received their initial training as artists as a part of a traditional church education in Gojam, Tigray, Wollo, or Begemder. And then they came to Addis Ababa in search of the opportunities available in the country's new capital. So in conclusion, my work aims to shed new light on a chapter of Ethiopian art history. This artistic production is a link between the traditional Ethiopian art and the modernism. So we can say that this phase of dialogue between the Ethiopian art and the influences that came from abroad was an important step in the process of abandoning forms that remain alive only in the reduced horizon of the decoration of manuscripts and the church walls. It opened up a new artistic sensibility, and I hope through my research to contribute to understand one more piece of this new artistic movement. And I am also very hopeful that I will be able to discover more about techniques and material during these 2 years of research. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ilaria. Also another great and unique presentation on a different topic. Does anyone has a question or would like to talk to Ilaria? Maybe Ilaria, if you can stop sharing the screen, I think it will be easier to see. Thank you. Okay. Maybe I have a question. I was wondering, this is 19th century. If we look at the history, there is no, I think there's no Western traditional workshop available, I guess, before that time of these paintings. In European vision, a lot of the painters were also under the royalties and usually connected to the military and traveling along to battlefields and depicting these kind of paintings. Do you have any idea where they were located, or if that has an impact, the location of where they made these artworks, if it has an impact on the visuals that you see inside the paintings, like in vegetables or natura reflections or the dress codes of the people? Yeah, I was wondering if we could find a bit more out about where they are from, these artists. Sorry, you're still muted.
Sorry, always this problem. As I told in the presentation, most of them they moved to Addis Ababa during the colonial period. So actually, we are talking about the first 30 years of the 20th century. And most of them, they came from region like Tigray, Wollo, and Gojam. And as I told, they moved to Addis Ababa because it was like magnet for new artists, and also because there were more foreign people, so they could buy paintings and they could really work. And then I found this interesting workshop of this Georgian entrepreneur that he made like a factory in a hotel, and he called a lot of painters to work for him, but actually they work for people, for foreign people. So yeah, for the moment, unfortunately, I have no many information about their life because not much has been written. So I hope to be able also to go to Ethiopia and to interview some maybe nephews of these artists, if it is possible. So yes.
Yeah. And
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Except for yeah, of course, the distance, but you've managed to learn Amharic to read those.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
These
Yeah, and also
informations.
yes.
Do you
Yeah.
find that there are other challenges in the interpretation of these two?
No, in the subject, so in the iconographical subject, I think more or less we can reconstruct the subject, the themes. What I really want is to do some analysis, some on materials, so I can also understand better the techniques that they use to make their paintings.
Yes.
So, for example, if they use natural color or if they use chemical color, or also, yeah, the canvases, they are parchment or clothes. I don't know still.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see here also that Natalie has a similar question. If you have any Ethiopian sources describing materials and techniques on the paintings.
No, for the moment, no. I don't have anything. Just the book of Raymond Silverman, Ethiopia, A Tradition of Creativity. He wrote something, but more general. For the moment, no, I have no information.
Okay.
So for this reason, I hope that maybe also with the University of Antwerp and with the PhD students, maybe we can help each other to understand also the materials.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Naomi, I'm sorry to add on that. There is actually research going on at EHA on Ethiopian artists. So if you guys can contact the Ethiopian Heritage Authority, they might help you. They are actually doing research with foreign universities regarding Ethiopian artists. So they have already started the process. So begin the communication. I think you will get interesting results.
Okay, thank you so much.
Really wonderful.
Thank
We
you.
will reach out to them and bring you in touch if you want.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, also for you, Ilaria, we are very excited to meet you here in Belgium as well. Thank you for the presentation. I think many people are still flabbergasted with all the information, so we will definitely reach out to them. Thank you so much. We are a little bit early. Fikir Selassie, either we can start, or if you prefer to wait a few minutes, we can also wait a little bit in case people are...
My presentation is very brief. It doesn't have anything to do with the art part, so we can start now.
Okay.
It's up to you. If we have questions, no worries. If not, I'm going to make it as 5 minutes as possible, so no worries.
Let me check just to see if people subscribed for that time and to make sure they don't miss your presentation. Okay. Okay, yes, we can continue if you like. So I'll share your presentation. Fikir Selassie, shall I
Yes,
start it
absolutely.
for you?
Yeah, yeah,
Then-
yes.
Okay.
So first of all, I would like to thank the Ethiopian Art Conservation Program for giving me this opportunity to share my experience. My experience is going to be a little bit different because I don't want to work on the art part of it. I am actually an architect, so I am much more concerned with the built heritage part of it. I was put in contact with Naomi because I was advising some students from the University of Antwerp regarding Ethiopian conservation. I was an advisor to students for 2 semesters, so that's how we got to meet. So it has been a pleasure getting to know you, Naomi, and thanks for the opportunity to present my area. So my area of interest is more on the built heritage parts, but I will try to present our challenge and what opportunities we have in Ethiopia. Next now. So to give you a very rough explanation about myself, I have been working in the construction sector in Ethiopia for the past 16 years, and I was fortunate enough to get the chance to work in World Heritage sites ever since I was a student at the Addis Ababa University Architecture Department. Then after some 8 years, there was an opportunity to get a master's degree in heritage conservation. Since I was working in the heritage and architecture field, I joined the master's program, and from 2017 onwards, I have been working with a US organization called World Monuments Fund, and I have done a lot of projects in Ethiopia together with World Monuments Fund in Ethiopia, in Ghana, and different parts of the world. We still have active projects in Ghana and in Ethiopia. So I am the site architect for both projects. But my main focus of activity now is I am the senior architect for the conservation of Rock-hewn church in Tigray, Debrecen Church. And it's going to be funded by the US Ambassadors Fund and World Monuments Fund, that the consulting job. So basically my role will be to follow up the conservation process and act as a mediator between government, church, different stakeholders, and make sure that all the conservation work is done to the expected standard. And parallelly, I do teach at the Addis Ababa University master's program in conservation, and I do also collaborate with different professionals regarding heritage conservation to do publications and stuff like that. I'm very glad to see one of my partners, Blaine. We have done a collaborative research together. I was happy to see her on the presentation, so it's been a pleasure. Next. So, as you all know, Ethiopia is located on the eastern side of the African continent. Next. So I wanted to talk about this because this is my first ever collaboration with World Monuments Fund. It's a very interesting rock-hewn church called Lalibela. It's a very famous World Heritage site. So this was a very interesting conservation project. By the way, it has frescoes and a lot of paintings inside, so it has an artistic part as well. So we do the conservation of the building and the art parts, but more focus on the built heritage part of it. It was a very interesting project because the building is almost built perfectly. So taking care of a very perfect building was a challenge. Like the way that it was built, the way it ventilates, the way the lights, the sanitary, all the things were done exquisitely. Like you cannot make a mistake when you carve a stone. You get one chance to make a window, you get one chance to make a door. So they did it perfectly. So we were taking care of things that were done some 900 years ago, and a major part of our contribution was a minor extension of the life of the stones, like trying to save the facades from being eaten away by lichens. It's a very sensitive stone. It's carved from volcanic tuff, but biological attack has been damaging it a lot. So we did minor interventions, and it's been functioning for some 6 years. It was completed in 2018, and so far the building is functioning well without any shelters. We have maintained some bits and pieces of it. A very extensive study was done, but our intervention was for 1 year. So it has been done successfully. So far, it's functioning well. The thing about this church is that we had to train priests to work on the holistic part of it. Priests to do conservation on the actual church. Those priests have formed projects around Lalibela even now. So that was a very interesting part of it, getting to work with the priests to help them take care of the heritage. It was a very good and fulfilling project. We have done treatments of facades, reintroduction of parapets, which were removed at some conservation states. This helped to prevent the facades from deteriorating very quickly. They were detached members as well. We had to pin them back with fiberglass. It was a very interesting project. So I'm very glad to be involved in this project. Next. So this will be started very soon. This is the Debre Zion church I was telling you about. It's a very old church. There have been various conservation attempts that have been done, but still there are challenges because there are leakages coming from the roof. There have been previous interventions that have worked against the stone, so we're as much as possible trying to take it back to the older style and trying to extend the life of the church. It's not collapsing or it's not in a very terrible status, but it needs to be conserved. So in the facades, there are detached members. So we're planning to make it stronger, clean the biological growth. There are some biological growth and maintaining the roof. That's what's been planned. Next now. So both of the churches we've seen earlier were stone carved. This is one of the other projects we've been working on in Jimma. So it's a wood and mud structure. We had so much difficulties to do conservation because the skills, traditional skills, were missing when we started the project. We had to look for people that work with mud. We had to look for people that work with wood. As I was asking regarding local knowledge about art conservation, we had similar challenges to do a conservation locally. Like we didn't train people that much to do actual conservation. We were able to find local skilled people, but we had to train them for more than 6 months so that they are aware of heritage conservation. They knew how to work with wood, but we had to teach them to do the conservation bit before we started the conservation. And most of our conservation principles are driven purely from Western civilizations, and whoever gets to fund the projects gets to dictate. So there is no local challenge to those Western standards. We simply follow the idea of whoever is funding the project. So that was a challenge, but throughout the project, it was a very good learning curve. Okay, next. So this is also another church in Lalibela. So there was a traditional method of looking after the church, but at some point there was a gap. So technically finding qualified people to do the maintenance of the church and actually trying to assess what's going on, informing the government officials or the local officials who are responsible to taking care of the church. And those parts have been missing from these conservation activities. Also documentation. When you start the conservation projects, it's very much difficult to find a properly organized documentation, which makes our life very difficult. Sometimes we just have to dig in and find the problem and give a solution to those arising problems. So we had to train, just like any part of our project, we had to train every workers for a very extended period of time before we actually started the project. And still, while we were doing the projects, we were learning different new methods of adapting to the historic building conservation methods as much as we could. And after finishing the project, it was a very good reference for people that came after us. Next. So this is me, Fikra Selassie. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer.
Okay, thank you so much, Fikra Selassie. Let's go to the chat first. Does anyone have a question about this topic, about the conservation campaigns or the approaches Fikra Selassie makes in Ethiopia? Blaine, I think you are raising your hand. Yes, please go ahead.
Thanks, Naomi. You can hear me well?
Yes, perfect.
Good. Hi, Fikra Selassie.
Hi, Blaine.
Yeah. It's almost weird to ask you a question like in the presentation, but I'm going to go for it anyway. About the restoration program in Debrecen, I was wondering if you could say a bit more about if there had been any impact by the war, or and more specifically talking about the roof, just to discuss what kind of options they're looking at and how in the past they dealt with the rainy season, and if the main issue is water entering through the roof, and just to tell us a bit more about that. I'm very eager to hear more about that.
No problem. The church has actually received a lot of shelling during this current war. So there have been damage in the external facade, and some frescoes that were done by gypsums were damaged because of the shelling. And on the external facades, you see some marks of shellings. We have actually collected some of the shelling bullets. So it has affected it, not very significantly, but it has affected it. So the war has affected it, but it's not very accessible. Like usually you have to walk 1 hour up to reach the church. So that makes it a little bit safe, but it has been shelled. Not to a huge structural issue, but it has affected it a little bit. We did our study before the war, and when we go back, we saw the difference, but it has survived it well. Regarding the roofing, previously, the sacred part or the holy part of the church had leakage. So they did maintenance. They applied a cocho pesto, a lime-based mortar on top, and it served for some time and it failed. So they had to reapply a plastic layer on top of it, and on top of the plastic layer, they applied a soft capping sort of structure. It's a very common roofing done around the Tigray region called Hudmo style application, but still it failed. One of the major failure is part of the church is attached to an actual ground in the backside. So there is actually water coming not only from top, from the side as well. So those waters coming from the side, they tend to find ways in the natural stone, and those leakages can be drawn back to the backside. So water is getting from backside and from top as well. So we're planning to detach the backside. It's a backfill, not the actual stone. That's causing the problem from the backside. So we're planning to get rid of the backfill that's collecting water and getting it into the church, and we're planning to maintain the actual roof. We will remove the existing lime-based mortar. We will do our grouting. We'll introduce our water-proof membrane, and then on top of that, we'll have a similar lime-based, just like the one that's existing. We'll have, and then on top of the lime layer, we'll have a soft capping, where the vegetation and the lime and the waterproof will have some 4 levels of protection.
That sounds very, very thorough. I think I'll just email you and have a separate chat about this, but thank you so much for your response, Lafi.
You're very welcome.
Okay, thank you. I see Professor De Kock has a similar question. He's asking, Ethiopia is quite a large country. How do different geomorphological regions and climates influence the different degradation phenomena? And maybe I would like to add to that, since there are different areas with different aspects on climate change and things like that. Are you mapping this for all over Ethiopia, and do you provide advice in a methodological way? Is there a way people can connect or find information on that before they approach a conservation campaign?
Having a holistic approach is still difficult, but most of our solutions are site-specific. That's one of the challenges we have. We don't have a national standard for built heritage conservation as well. The government authority controls all the heritage, Ethiopian Heritage Authority, and having a standard is a bit difficult, but most of the projects, they tend to be site-specific, and we tend to give site-specific solutions, which has to change. It's my strong belief that for every site, they have to be properly documented, properly preserved, and all the information needs to be passed to the next generation, which is going to do a much better job compared to the time now. So it's very much difficult to have a standard for them. But when the heritages are built, they are built in a way that responds to the actual condition. So we're doing our bits to help in that aspect, but our solutions are site-specific.
Yes, thank you. And to answer Tim's question, do you have an idea about how it's different in the different regions? Like, do you have examples? Because you showed, like, for example, the Tigray region. I can imagine it's different from even Lalibela, or
It's very different.
and if you go southern.
Most of the churches in Lalibela and Tigray are carved from stone, but the stone type, the way it's carved, the way it's accessed, is completely different. The churches in Lalibela are carved down, like they're curved from the natural ground to the downwards curving. So they were curving down. But the churches in Tigray, they are on top of mountains and they're curved on top. The way they're curved is also very different. The motives behind were also very different. So your solutions, your proposals have to be specific.
Okay. Super, thank you. I think Professor de Kock would also love to get in touch with you with his background in geologic research. So thank you so much, Fakir Selassie.
Very happy.
Okay. Anyone else has a question? We have a little bit of time left. All right. I think then for today, we were able to go through all presentations and finish in time. I will send everyone who was here today the abstracts with the contact information so you can elaborate on your discussions. I hope everyone was very happy to see each other and get to know more about the Ethiopian conservation campaigns that are already ongoing. I saw so many links and I hope you were happy to get all the information. So tomorrow we start at the same time. We have a little shorter program, so definitely if you have time, please join us again. Thank you to all presenters. Thank you also for University of Antwerp to come and share their thoughts because they have been a great support to us. Thank you to all the students and thank you for all the professionals working in the field. We are very lucky that you are there and we really hope to help you out further as well. So thank you so much for today, everyone, and hope to see you tomorrow. Have a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you.
Hey, Marija. How are you? You like it? You like?
Oh, I can hear myself.